Hikari was shocked to discover that a completely nude portrait of herself was hanging in the school lobby on display. Her classmates gathered around it, whispering and talking about her. Hikari froze in fear. For a moment, she had no idea how to react. Then she suddenly ran toward the teacher's office. She anxiously explained what had happened to her, but the teacher calmly said that since the painting had won first place in a competition, it had to remain on display for a full year before it could be taken down, and the artist of that painting was none other than Hikari's younger sister Kyoko. The teacher showed no concern at all about the subject of the painting. He even said that this was an art high school, and that all the students would see the painting as nothing more than a normal piece of artwork, but the teacher had clearly miscalculated. The entire class was gossiping about Hikari. Some people even directly asked her personal questions while she was eating. Even strangers who didn't know her would stop and stare at her. Hikari had clearly become a celebrity at school, and even worse than that, her father brought all of their relatives to see the award-winning painting. Hikari protested desperately, but her objections were ignored. They even dragged her over to take a group photo with the painting. At that moment, Hikari completely hated her sister Kyoko. Hikari swore she would get her revenge. That evening, she opened the door to Kyoko's bedroom. Hikari decided she would draw an art piece of Kyoko as well, but to her surprise, Kyoko didn't refuse at all. She was actually very happy to cooperate. In fact, Kyoko had been Hikari's shadow ever since they were little. No matter what Hikari did, Kyoko would copy it. Even the old clothes Hikari had worn, Kyoko liked to wear them too. Even the bathwater Hikari had already used, Kyoko would still use it afterward. Kyoko was like Hikari's shadow, always following behind her. Even when it came time to attend high school, she insisted on going to the same school as Hikari. Hikari was surprised by this. She herself had chosen an art high school because she loved drawing, but Kyoko had never studied art before. She even hated the smell of paint and ink. Yet Kyoko desperately wanted to attend the same high school as Hikari. After her sister's repeated begging, Hikari agreed to teach her how to draw, but whether she could actually get into the art high school would depend entirely on Kyoko herself. So Hikari started teaching her from the basics. She stayed up late with Kyoko, practicing drawing flowers together. As Hikari watched her sister steadily improve, she felt genuinely happy for her, but gradually, she began to sense something was wrong. Kyoko's talent for drawing seemed extraordinarily high. Many things clicked for her the moment she learned them. Things that had taken Hikari 3 years to master, Kyoko learned in just one summer. She even surpassed Hikari. In the end, thanks to her overwhelming talent, Kyoko was specially admitted into the art high school, and because of her jealousy, Hikari stopped talking to her sister altogether. It was only today, because Hikari decided to take revenge on Kyoko, that she spoke to her again for the first time. That was why Kyoko seemed so excited. But at that moment, Hikari suddenly realized she didn't even know how to draw anymore. So the next day, she went to look at that painting again. The teacher said that Kyoko always seemed listless in class. No matter what she was doing, she showed no interest. Only when she was working on that painting did she become unusually focused. The teacher said that the assignment he had given was to draw the person each student admired most, and the person Kyoko had drawn was her own sister. Hikari was stunned. She never imagined that she held such an important place in Kyoko's heart, and yet she herself had been so narrow-minded. She had even given up drawing out of jealousy toward her sister's talent. Hikari felt deeply ashamed. Only at that moment did she finally understand she couldn't let her sister down. She needed to keep living up to the image she held in her sister's heart. So she began studying human anatomy. She drew countless sketches. She practiced day and night without rest. She even enrolled in figure drawing classes. Hikari became completely focused. Also, she could be worthy of her sister's admiration. And in the end, she completed an artwork of her own. Soon, a year passed. Kyoko's painting was taken down from the display. It was replaced by the next award-winning piece. When Kyoko saw the new painting, she was stunned because it had been drawn by Hikari, and the model in the painting was Kyoko herself. Hikari proudly explained the strengths of the painting. She even lectured Kyoko, saying that when drawing, she must carefully observe every detail of the model. Not long after that, Hikari graduated. In order to help her sister become more independent, she went alone to a big city to work, but after her sister graduated, Kyoko followed her there as well.
私は妹の姉だから。
The girl tore off a spider's legs, and then casually crushed it into powder. Her mother scolded her, calling her a freak, but the girl, born with dulled nerves, had no idea what she had done wrong. Still, she apologized. She even promised that she wouldn't tear off spider legs anymore, and would only rip apart insects like dragonflies instead. But her apology only made her mother beat her even harder. She couldn't understand why. No matter how many times she apologized, she was never forgiven. The girl's name was Ruku. When she grew up, she became a top-tier assassin. Today, she received a new assassination job, but because of her sweet appearance, the employer couldn't help but doubt whether she was really the infamous killer from the rumors. So Ruku smiled and pulled several eyeballs out of her pocket. She explained that when she entered earlier, the guards at the door had looked at her with lewd expressions, so she casually gouged out their right eyes. Only then did the employer take out the money, but the target of the mission was actually the employer himself. Ruku didn't waste a single word. She directly blew the man's head apart, but in the next instant, the employer revived. Ruku stared at the scene in shock. The man's name was Yogur. He was a vampire who had lived for thousands of years. Life had become unbearably boring for him, and now he only wanted to die. But Ruku failed to kill him, making him suffer the pain of having his head blown apart for nothing. Ruku could only apologize. What she didn't expect was that Yogur immediately forgave her. Yogur himself didn't realize it, but his casual words of forgiveness made Ruku feel a warmth she had never known before. After all, Ruku had never been forgiven by anyone. That night, Ruku couldn't sleep. Her mind was filled with Yogur. She didn't know that this was love. She only knew that whenever she thought of him, her heart would race and her chest would ache. The feeling made her deeply uncomfortable. So the next day, she went to find Yogur again, but she was stopped by the same guards. Ruku apologized to them for what happened yesterday, but they refused to accept her apology, so she dealt with them. Then she hurried straight to Yogur's room. Ruku told Yogur that, ever since the day she met him, she hadn't been able to sleep, and couldn't eat either. She didn't know what was happening to her, but Yogur calmly told her that she had caught a cold and should go to the hospital. Simple-minded Ruku believed him. She turned around and left immediately. It wasn't until halfway there that she remembered she was a wanted criminal, and going to a hospital would surely get her arrested. But she trusted Yogur's words completely. She had to see a doctor. Meanwhile, Yogur was lying on the couch watching TV. A breaking news report was playing on the screen. It was about Ruku's whereabouts being discovered. The police had already surrounded the hospital, but Ruku excitedly waved at the camera, shouting that she didn't have a cold at all. She said the doctor told her that her symptoms weren't caused by illness, but because she had fallen in love with Yogur. Watching this scene, Yogur burst out laughing. He had never seen a girl this interesting. He hadn't laughed in 400 years. Yogur found Ruku fascinating and decided to go see her, but when he arrived at the hospital, Ruku was already gravely injured and on the brink of death. Yogur envied her. She was able to experience the feeling of dying. When Ruku saw Yogur arrive, she smiled happily, but as she smiled, she completely lost her breath. Ruku, who had just tasted love for the first time, died just like that. But Yogur couldn't bear to lose someone so interesting. He immediately bit into Ruku's neck. At that very moment, the police arrived. Yogur held Ruku in his arms, broke through the police blockade, and escaped with her. And in Yogur's embrace, Ruku began breathing again. In the end, Yogur and Ruku lived together, and even after hundreds of years, Yogur would still be amused by Ruku's simple-minded nature. Several years ago, aliens invaded Earth. They devoured every human on the planet. This left all the aliens deeply disappointed, because humans were their favorite delicacy. But Yohei was an exception. He preferred to coexist peacefully with humans. That day, Yohei had an important task. He was going to feed chickens with his girlfriend. Aliens ate almost anything, except chickens. Chickens were extremely rare in this world. Yohei's girlfriend Momi had only ever seen them in photographs. After preparing the feed, they headed to the school's chicken yard. But when Yohei reached out with the corn, a hand suddenly stretched out. That's right, those two chickens were actually humans in disguise. The aliens had never seen real chickens before, so they couldn't tell that these were humans. Only after the two aliens left did they dare step forward to take the food. They might have been the last two surviving humans, yet they were being kept as chickens. In the yard behind the school, they had already lived in this courtyard for half a year. The girl's name was Ami. She naively believed that one day, the aliens would return to their own planet. But Haruto didn't think so. He believed the aliens had already claimed Earth as their home. They had even built subways and established schools here. Still, he comforted Ami, telling her that someday the aliens would leave, and so, holding on to hope. Ami endured life in the courtyard, but Haruto had no hope of surviving. Perhaps the only thing keeping him going was Ami. Soon, afternoon arrived. Yohei entered the yard carrying feed. Haruto and Ami hurriedly pretended to be chickens, lowering their heads to eat. But today, there was only raw corn. The two stared at the bucket of uncooked kernels, unsure how to eat them. At that moment, Yohei suddenly said, "You're humans," but Yohei had no intention of eating them. Instead, he wanted to help them, because staying here was no longer safe. Earlier that day, a transfer student had joined his class, and this transfer student loved eating chicken. Upon hearing that there were chickens behind the school, he immediately became excited. He even transformed on the spot. Aliens were not allowed to transform at school. It was clear that his desire to eat chicken had driven him completely insane. He rushed straight toward the school's backyard, but by the time he arrived, Yohei had already replaced their headgear with cat masks. Unfortunately, the transfer student also loved eating cats. At the critical moment, Yohei transformed and saved Ami, but Ami's headgear fell off, and that scene was witnessed by all the arriving aliens. They began to drool uncontrollably, with no other choice. Yohei grabbed both of them and fled the school, but humans were simply too conspicuous. They quickly attracted the attention of alien police. They fled all the way toward the forest. There lived a group of humans Yohei had once rescued, but suddenly, a massive fist came crashing down. Yohei was crushed to death on the spot, yet in his final moments, he threw Ami and Haruto away. Haruto, however, was gravely injured. Ami rushed over to check his wounds. Haruto told Ami to run, but how could Ami abandon Haruto, who had stayed by her side all this time? Aliens showed no mercy to humans. The massive fist came down toward them again, but in the next instant, Haruto caught the enormous fist with one hand. That's right, Haruto was also an alien. Half a year earlier, Ami had confronted Haruto, asking why he ate humans. Haruto's answer was simple, because humans also eat pigs and cows. To him, there was no difference. Ami continued questioning him, but Haruto truly couldn't understand what it felt like to be food, so he knocked Ami unconscious. Then he transformed himself into a human. He wanted to experience what it meant to live as prey, and so he lived together with the unaware Ami in the school's courtyard. But as time passed, he formed a bond with her. Now, he had only one goal: to protect Ami and buy her time to escape. Soon, the two aliens clashed in battle. Meanwhile, Ami successfully escaped. In the days that followed, Ami reunited with the surviving humans in the forest, but humans were never a match for aliens. Before long, humanity was completely wiped out, and Haruto was remembered only by a single line in alien history, that during humanity's final moments, aliens once lived side by side with humans.